This year's recipient of our Volunteer of the Year award probably could have received this award any time in the last 15 years, although we haven't given it that long. But it is really appropriate that she's winning it this year with our theme of God, Country, Notre Dame, given how much that phrase reminds us of Father Ted. Her story, more than most, is linked very closely to Father Ted. As many of you know, before he became president and shortly after World War II, Father Hesburgh helped establish and served as the chaplain of a place called Vetville, the on-campus housing community for married veterans. Vetville thrived for 16 years and was home to hundreds of veterans and their families. One of those veterans was Pat Sterling, class of 1961. His daughter Jeanine, who spent her early years calling Notre Dame's campus and Vetville her home, is our honoree today. But the Hesburgh connection doesn't stop there, as Jeanine is really, truly one of the university's pioneers. She's a proud member of the first four-year class of women who graduated from Notre Dame in 1976. I don't have to tell any of you in the audience of the incredible admiration Father Ted had for women, and absolutely for Jeanine. All of us alumni who followed in your footsteps owe you a debt of gratitude. Jeanine, on behalf of all the women of Notre Dame, thank you. But wait, there's more. Despite what I'm sure were some really challenging times during those early days of coeducation, Jeanine graduated with a passion for Notre Dame that's been on display ever since, everywhere she goes. The volume and diversity of her service to the university and her leadership in the Alumni Association would be among those at the very top. She served from 2005 to 2017 as a board member for the Notre Dame Club of Detroit. Detroit, you can cheer now. Her responsibilities and impact are far too reaching to list them all, but just to name a few. Jeanine was the club's first student-parent liaison, creating a suite of programming supporting the club's current students and their families. She edited and completely revamped the club's newsletter. She served as the club's webmaster. But perhaps her role with the club in Detroit that had the widest impact was as the chairperson of the club's alumni outreach. After serving on the club's board for a year, Jeanine and her fellow board members decided to try to address the troubling lack of women attending any of the club events. They proposed a formal outreach to Notre Dame women in the area, and it became a huge success. The programs they set in place continue to flourish today. But more than that, their work also got noticed back here at the Alumni Association and helped to inspire the creation of the wonderful organization we now know as ND Women Connect. When the Alumni Association formed its initial alumni initiative committee in 2006, Jeanine was recruited to be one of its leaders because of her incredible work with the Notre Dame Club of Detroit. She went on to serve the ND Women Connect's National Steering Committee through 2014. But wait, there's more. Similar to her work with the Detroit Club, Jeanine's contributions to ND Women Connect cannot be easily summarized because she did just about everything. She managed and maintained the website, created and wrote the email newsletter, launched the ND Women Connect Facebook page, created the field director role for ND Women Connect, managed the onboarding process for each new local chapter, and, again, this isn't even the full list, even co-managed the 40th anniversary of co-education program at Reunion 2013. While Jeanine moved on from the ND because of term limits, not for any other reason, we'd have kept her forever, on ND Women Connect board, we just couldn't let her incredible talent not continue to flourish. So in 2017, when you see her, you'll find this hard to believe, she joined the Senior Alumni Board as a regional director. And once again, kicking it into high gear, she took over the Facebook page and is the editor of the revamped Golden Domer email newsletter. As you can see, Jeanine could have been given this award for her work with any of these three groups, but the enormous impact she's had on 3 of our organizations and countless Notre Dame alumni and friends is really astounding. I know I speak on behalf of the entire university when I say how grateful we are for your dedication and leadership. And if I can take the liberty, I'm confident that Father Ted is incredibly proud of this loyal daughter of Notre Dame. So please, join me in welcoming and thanking from the class of '76, the Notre Dame Club of Detroit, ND Women Connect, and from our Notre Dame Senior Alumni Board, the pride of Vettville and the 2019 Volunteer of the Year, Jeanine Sterling.
You can take your glasses and paper, and I'll substitute my glasses and paper. Whoa, okay, hi everyone. Thank you for the kind words, Dolly. I'll expand on some of those thoughts with some of the things I want to say. And thank you to the Alumni Association staff as a whole, you know, starting with Dolly, who sets the tone, but including all of the people who do so much to support us. For me, that's Angeline, Sharon, Mandy, Ellie, Heather, Krista, Bill, the help desk crew, Paul Weichel, who helps me with the technological aspects of putting out a senior alumni newsletter and probably wants to run screaming into the sunset when he sees my name on caller ID. God bless Paul Weichel. All of the team, thank you so much. I also very much need to thank the 3 groups that have each given me a specific opportunity to serve. My local Notre Dame Club of Detroit, where this all began so many years ago. The other bookend, the Senior Alumni Board I'm currently serving on, and smack in the middle is the cause closest to my heart, the ND Women Connect alumni outreach effort. I want to talk a little more about these groups in a second, but I have to take a step back and tell you that just a couple of hours before Dolly called to tell me about this award, I had printed out a quote from Warren Buffett that made me laugh. Mr. Buffett was at some conference giving advice, and he distilled it down to this, quote, "Really successful people say no to almost everything." Well, you know, I'm pretty much a complete failure when it comes to saying no, and there's Exhibit A. In fact, I think Mr. Buffett would be disappointed in this entire room, because I'm going to bet that you all got to this leadership conference by saying yes, not no. In fact, you've probably said yes a lot of times over the years, and you know, more power to you. At Notre Dame, maybe, just maybe, we're taught to flip Mr. Buffett's philosophy and look forward to making many, many yes moments in our lives. These decision points, you know, often become major forks in the road for us, and 2 key yes moments set me on my path, some of which Dolly has addressed, but I'll address it some more. The first happened over 60 years ago and ended up being kind of a yes, no, yes situation. My dad is class of '61, and before you compare that with me being class of '76, no, my parents did not have me when they were 13 years old. My dad was actually accepted into Notre Dame in 1950. He plowed through the first couple of years, and then he did something really dangerous. He started taking great books courses. Okay, we know how dangerous that can be. He philosophized his way right out of college, dropped out midway through his junior year, went home, married his high school sweetheart, and then got drafted into the Army at the tail end of the Korean War. And I was born sometime during boot camp. By the end of his Army stint, he had gotten his act together and decided to go back to Notre Dame and major in architecture. You know, one of those easy, undemanding 5-year majors. So in the fall of 1956, he, my mom, and I rolled up to our new digs in Vettville. And as you know, it was a neighborhood built for returning World War II vets and their families. It was located where the library and Mod Quad are today. And always frugal Notre Dame, realizing that they had to have some kind of housing for these World War II vets, bought 39 former POW barracks from the government, shipped them up to campus, split each one into 3 itsy-bitsy, living units, moved 117 families in, and that first year, 106 babies were born. By the time I arrived there, Vettville had become a paradise on earth for its youngest residents. We were a tribe. The campus was our playground, and Farley students were our babysitters. It doesn't get much better than that. We left after 5 years of kid heaven in 1961 when my dad graduated, and today you'll find a Vettville remembrance plaque about 20 yards north of the library's north entrance, and I go and visit it every time I'm on campus. My dad's decision to come back to Notre Dame, to say yes again and really mean it, gave me an experience I'll never forget. And very importantly, at a very young age, I already thought of Notre Dame as my home. Fast forward 10 years for the next yes moment. It's 1971. Notre Dame is still an all-guys school, and I'm filling out college applications. My parents took a hands-off role, that good old Catholic benign neglect parenting, with one exception. My dad asked me to apply to St. Mary's College. Now, I had attended co-ed schools all my life. I knew an all-girls environment wasn't for me. But being an obedient daughter, I whined and I complained for a couple of days, and then I filled out the forms and mailed them in. Well, what do you know? A couple months later, a letter in the mail arrives telling me that the plans to merge St. Mary's and Notre Dame had fallen through. But ND had decided to go co-ed anyway on its own. So where did I want my application to go? To St. Mary's, to Notre Dame, or to both? Well, my first reaction was, what merger? I had no idea that was even being discussed, so talk about serendipity. And the second reaction was, I said what turned out to be one of the most important yeses in my life. I put a big check mark by Notre Dame and thought, what fun to go back. It's time for an adventure. So they had 15 applications for every opening, so the competition was pretty intense. But in the fall of 1972, I joined 124 other girls as Notre Dame's first freshman class of females, and we had 240 new upperclassmen transfers too, mostly from St. Mary's, so that the male to female ratio was 6,000 guys was 20 to 1. Now, when people hear that ratio, I usually get the wink, wink, smirk reaction, which is, wow, you ladies must have had it made. Well, let me assure you, no, we did not. I'm glad I was a pioneer, oh my gosh. And parts of the experience were a lot of fun and very exciting and very inspiring. But as with any pioneer experience, it could also be lonely and scary, especially that first year. Male students telling you that you didn't belong here. Some alumni still waving that better dead than co-ed banner. In retrospect, it was a lot for 18-year-olds to handle. But we kept saying yes to the opportunity and to the challenge, made friends, had great professors, and I think it's safe to say that both Notre Dame and its female pioneers ended up better off as a result. During the next 3 decades after graduation, during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I tried a few times to hook into the alumni network, but the local clubs weren't all that welcoming back then, at least the ones I approached. I guess I wasn't their target at the time, so I pretty much stayed away for a number of years. Then in 2005, my son was accepted by Notre Dame, and I was recruited to join the Detroit Club's board of directors at this send-off picnic. And that's where the yeses really revved up. I had 3 decades of pent-up volunteering to do. So what I found myself gravitating to, big surprise, was the outlier, the groups that were part of the Notre Dame family, but not quite feeling it. So kind of like my previous 30 years had been. So in Detroit, that began with creating a new role, like Dolly said, a liaison to our current students and their parents. Up to that point, we saw the students the summer before they went to ND, and then really nothing after that. And the parents, same thing. So we changed that. Created a freshman family directory, a summer job board, a monthly parents newsletter, and a huge personally delivered first finals care package for our freshmen. Those were the highlights. It was really fun and fulfilling to make our parents and students feel welcome and supported at the local level with their club. But that ended up being the prelude to my real passion, which was doing the same thing for our female grads. After a year on the board attending club events, like Dolly said, there were 5 of us women on a board of 30. And, we were just looking at each other going, where are all the women attendees? They're not showing up. Why? So we shook some money out of the club, who was so wonderful and so positive and so supportive, and had a couple of small alumni happy hours, talked with them, and then sent out a snail mail survey. This was before, we really had email addresses, at our fingertips, and asked for a show of interest in a long list of new activity ideas that we had brainstormed. So the responses to this survey were just a gold mine. Based on their input, we went on to institute an annual happy hour, a women's retreat, an email mentor program, another newsletter, I love newsletters, and a big 40th anniversary of coeducation blowout, like Dolly said. Since then, Detroit has added more service events, Christmas meetup, and a women's book club. And surprise, once they felt valued and attended at the smaller, more intimate events, the women started coming to the bigger traditional club activities too. They just needed to feel valued. So it was after the first year of alumni engagement at the local level, I was recruited by the Alumni Association to join what would turn into ND Women Connect Steering Committee. I don't think I've ever had more fun in my life, really. You want to get things done? Put a group of Notre Dame alumni around a table and watch things happen. This committee of women represented and still represents alumni from every coeducation decade. They are so creative, so generous, so hardworking, and very, very plain spoken. There are no games. We clicked, we came up with ideas and tried them. If they worked, great, keep them going. If they didn't work, on to the next thing, try something else. We started with a presence in 4 clubs in 2008, Chicago, Detroit, Denver, and DC. Got to 55 by the time we became an official affinity group board in 2014, and today are in over 100 local clubs. I think we touched a nerve. Which really is not a surprise. When ND Women Connect started, the male-female ratio in the alumni population was still pretty lopsided, almost 4-to-1. And many clubs didn't realize how alienated some of their local alumni felt. Alienated, unwelcome, you know what I'm talking about. The Alumni Association and ND Women Connect really helped to change this. I have to give a special salute to our Alumni Association mentors during that time, Karen Conway and Kate Teleska Banks in particular, and a big thank you to all of my committee mates, all of them, especially Carol Mullaney and Jean Collier, who also stuck around for 7 years to establish a framework and were always willing to take a leap of faith. I'm going to wrap up by encouraging all of you to think about how to reach out to the outliers in your own club. They're definitely there, hovering on the margins. It could be an alumna who's raised her kids and is now ready to reconnect with Notre Dame. It could be an older senior alum who can't drive anymore and would love a ride to, a local club event. Or really any other grad for any other reason who doesn't feel like they're a real part of this big and crazy alumni family. Figure out a way to say yes to them, and I bet a lot of them say yes right back. Thank you so much.